Episode 150 of The Actors Room highlights the 2007 horror/thriller/mystery film called Zodiac, directed by David Fincher. This film was based on the novel written by Robert Graysmith, who worked at the San Francisco Chronicle as a cartoonist during this turbulent time. Graysmith was both fascinated and utterly consumed with the Zodiac case. And it must be noted that the audience shouldn't rely on this film as fact about what happened back in the late 60s and early 70s surrounding this whole story. Although most events in the book and the film are accurate, and they are, it is still a film and someone else's viewpoints and opinions. But what a wonderful film this is. It's entertainment. The Zodiac, the big mystery. Who was the Zodiac? Nobody really knows for sure. It was so long ago. This edition of The Actors Room will really concentrate on the film. So, sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this edition of The Actors Room, episode 150. I've said it 3 times. 200? Is it possible? We'll see. In The Actors Room, my name is Jeff Tarowski. Here we go.
Working with David Fincher on Zodiac was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He is an absolute master of this art form. And so it wasn't like, a fancy free set. And because I knew that this was something that was really part of David's own history, of his own kind of contemplation of evil, you're trying to serve the director and be respectful of that. But I remember, Ruffalo and Gyllenhaal and I looking at each other knowing we're getting a real education in doing things in an extremely disciplined way. That said, when I watch the film, there's a lot of kind of like fun and lightness in it, which David Fincher always knows how to capture. It's just not, he doesn't lean into any sort of indulgence. He's a really disciplined guy. And
Robert Downey Jr. Don't you love that guy? I haven't talked about him enough on my show. Shame on me. I put in this movie the other day, and I got to do a podcast episode on this film. And especially this time of year. Here we are, October 2025. I'm in the 10th year of my show. And I haven't talked about Robert Downey Jr. enough. And here I am, watching Zodiac. Perfect. So here we are. And Robert Downey Jr., in the clip I played, is glowingly talking about the director of this film, David Fincher, who's a fantastic director. But what I find interesting is their relationship really wasn't that great during filming. I'm sure it's fine now. But at the time, making this film, Robert struggled with David Fincher and his role. To start off, Downey approached Fincher and asked him, what is the best course of action to really get into my character? Avery, the journalist, a real person. Fincher didn't have much. Few pictures and a few interviews. They know how he dressed. They know how he looked. And through interviews, you can get a sense of who they are. But that was all. Not much to go on for Downey. Fincher told him, make him yours. And he did. Downey's performance in Zodiac is not only refreshing, but you get that flair, that special acting from a talent like Robert Downey Jr. that doesn't come along very often. Note his performance in Zodiac. It's witty and it's fun. We will get into this film. We will get into the Zodiac a little, but for the most part, we're going to talk about the film based on the book by Robert Graysmith. And I also want to note before we get into the film, as great as I think this movie is, and it is great, it wasn't really honored like I think it should have by the Oscars and the Golden Globes, which I find a crying shame in 2007. I guess it was a great year. Didn't do research on all the films that won ridiculous amounts of awards that year, but I'm not saying they should have won Best Picture. I'm not saying that. But it wasn't honored the way I think it should have been. It's a wonderful film. If you've never seen Zodiac, please watch it this season of Halloween. And I want your opinion too. Who do you think the Zodiac might be? Because everybody's got an opinion on it. Not a solid one, because no one really truly knows. But what a fascinating story. So here we go, highlighting the 2007 film starring Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal, Anthony Edwards, and Mark Ruffalo. It took 110 days to shoot this. And Fincher is known to not only take his time with a scene, but shoot it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Reminds me of Stanley Kubrick. Fincher, he's on the same level. So much so, Jake Gyllenhaal said that during one of the scenes, he had Gyllenhaal going up to a front door so many times, he lost his character. That's interesting. As an actor, that's something you don't want to happen. It almost became too monotonous. Doing it so many times, it was almost like brushing your teeth. Case in point, another example, Robert Downey Jr. He was so frustrated with Fincher doing the numerous takes that he mentioned how he wanted to strangle him. That's a true story. I think it would be a good idea to give a slight overview of the whole Zodiac story before we continue. In the late 60s, a man wrote letters to newspapers in the Los Angeles area that he was the Zodiac shooting couples in their cars on Lover Lanes. There were a few murders in the area, and he provided intimate details that only the killer would know. This not only sparked interest, but it sparked this fascination with the whole story. Included in his letters were codes and the ciphers, they call them. Very difficult ones, and that fascinated people as well. A couple sitting down at their kitchen table, worked on it for days and decoded it. And what you have is the Zodiac. This whole mystery. And did he do all of the murders that he said he did? There are a lot of people that believe there was more than one person. And that's something I believe as well. I don't think there was just one person. Some people believe it was just one guy. I don't. But I thought I'd give a brief little summary of the Zodiac. If there's people out there that have no idea what the story is, not into true crime, I get it. My wife is the same way. I'm sure she knows nothing about the Zodiac. And I get it. I like to live in my little bubble too, my life bubble. She does the same with scary stuff. I like to dive into this stuff. It's great. And I love this movie. And it'll be really fun. Dissecting it, the movie, that is. Pointing out performances and scenes in the film that I really love. And from time to time, I may sort of talk a little bit more about this thrilling case. Unsolved, of course. Nobody really knows who the real Zodiac or Zodiacs is or are. The opening of the film shows the Zodiac's second attack, not the first. They show the second. They didn't have enough information, Fincher said, about the first murder. So he decided they were going to start with the second murder. The first attack was on December 20th of 1968. The second attack was on Michael Rougeau and Darlene Ferrin on the 4th of July, 1969. And that's where the film starts. The boy survived. The girl didn't. Michael is still alive today and has given interviews about his experience. The couple says they were followed by a car. And I want to point out that Michael at the time was 19 and Darlene was 22 and married. She liked to date outside the marriage. I guess her husband was not the best of guys. So Darlene really enjoyed the company of other men or boys. I mean, Michael was 19 at the time. Whenever she felt it necessary. It was one of those days where she was just all over the place, Darlene, getting things done and being followed by someone who I think ultimately killed her that night. Michael says that he believes Darlene knew who was in the car following them that night. And the director, David Fincher, he did it, man. The beginning of the film, these are the ones I love. I want to be grabbed right away. And you are so interested in what is going to happen in this film from the very beginning. They're parked, Lover's Lane, Michael and Darlene, at night. This is around midnight. And a car goes by, right? Going fast or something, just kids goofing around. But then the other car comes up suspiciously, and you feel it. And it goes away, and then it comes back and parks behind them. That's the Zodiac, so to speak. And he just starts blazing away, right away. It's just chaos. And Michael, who's still alive and cannot be really believed because he's a heavy drug user, and if you've seen him in interviews, and I'm talking about recent interviews, you can tell he's been through it. He just looks damaged to me. So you really can't rely on his memories. I think there's certain things that he has blocked out, and he does remember moments that night. But he says he never got a good look at Zodiac. It was dark. It was at a bad angle. He said he looked up and he saw a figure. And he knew it was a guy. And he could roughly give the dimensions of the man. But that is definitely not enough. And this really affected Michael. Darlene was killed, but Michael survived. In his interviews, he says that after the shooting, he laid there for hours, which is not true. And this will show you just how this messes with your brain. It was only minutes. He was alone, bleeding. But he says in interviews it was hours. Like his time recollections are so off that you really can't take what he says heart to heart. A note that I have about the first couple of murders concerning Zodiac is that the resemblance between the first two female victims are very similar. They look alike. And if Michael's correct on this fact, this point, Michael believes Darlene knew who shot them that night. So that means Was there a connection between Darlene and the first female murdered? There was some jealousy, I think. Darlene knew this guy. He was obsessed with her. Was the first set of murders like a practice? You get to think about these things. And something also to think about during this whole episode. Because I'm going to be throwing things out. I'm doing it already. It's like, I didn't think I was going to do it a lot. I didn't think I'm too familiar with this case, but I might be. I don't know. But going through the points of interest in this film might bring up certain things about the case, and I might do that. So I hope you enjoy that aspect of the show. Not only will you get analysis of the film, but you may get opinions, facts, or not facts about Zodiac. I think that the credit sequence in this film was done very well by Fincher. And Jake Gyllenhaal as Graysmith is noticeably awkward right from the jump. It looks like he doesn't belong. And I mean that in the sense of his coworkers. He looks like an outcast. And David Fincher said he did that for a reason. He wanted Gyllenhaal and his character of Graysmith to feel like an outsider. And you'll see that. Through most of the film, Graysmith is just sort of different. Kind of weird and awkward and whatnot. And Fincher made a point to do that. An acting note on Gyllenhaal. I put, he does a double take at the desk before he leaves it in the beginning of the film. They're going to a meeting. And they say the meeting's going to start. Gyllenhaal looks at his desk, starts to leave, stops, and then goes back and looks at his desk like he's forgetting something. Those little moments, whether that was planned or not, whether Fincher told him, listen, you're going to go to the meeting, stop, look back at your desk and look at it like you forgot something, and then scan it and then move on. Or is that Gyllenhaal making that choice? Just being in the moment of that, where you're at your desk in the office and there's a meeting, right? So you're going to the meeting, and before you leave your desk, you take a moment. You go, okay, do I have everything? I do this in the morning before I leave work every fucking day. I have everything, but I always think I'm forgetting something. Whether it's my coffee, right? My lunch, whatever. My glasses. There's so many things I have in my bag. Is there something I forgot? Gyllenhaal does that. It's subtle. But it's little moments like that in film. I don't know what it is. I get a lot out of that. Just those, what was it? A second and a half of film. And that's, for me, it almost makes the beginning for me. It makes I'm already like, this is a good film. Not only is the director letting these things happen, it's just Gyllenhaal, he's got it. Like, he's there. And do you like Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor? I do. And he started a long time ago. We're about the same age, Jake and I. And he started very young in his career. If you remember City Slickers, he was Billy Crystal's son. And we're talking, he was probably, 12 at that time? So he's been in the business for a while. We get to see Robert Downey as Paul Avery next. He's shown. And I notice how he walks in this movie right away. He walks like a rooster. Doesn't he? Look at him. Does he do this in all his films? No. But in this one, this character, he felt it necessary to walk around like a rooster. Robert Duvall did the same thing in Apocalypse Now. Rooster-like. Manly. Was that the way he felt Paul Avery walked? I guess so. But I think that's also Downey too. He just has that posture. He's very confident. Even though he may not feel that he's confident, right? He's going to put every bit of confidence he can muster in his artistic soul, in his artistic flavor of the day, week, month, or year, project, whatever. And that's what you get. This cocky, arrogant, smart, interesting character. And right off the bat, I'm there, man. This movie not only has mystery about Zodiac, but Fincher's throwing these wonderful characters at you. Because he picked the actors, he told them what to do in a way, and you get this already, right? Really interesting character from Gyllenhaal and Downey, the two main characters in this film. Ruffalo also is a big part of this film, yes. But I think the two stars are Downey and not Ruffalo. And I always thought it was Ruffalo. I guess it's Ruffalo. And, Gyllenhaal and Downey. Their relationship is what drives this movie, character-wise. A relationship that did not exist in reality, but did for the film. Fincher and the writers felt building a relationship between Graysmith and Avery was essential to make this film successful. Without it, it would be limpy, in a way. They had to make up that relationship. So I wanted to point that out right off the bat, talking about the characters in this film. There are a lot of characters in this film, but the two most important ones, in my opinion, Downey and Gyllenhaal. And do they have chemistry? The letter from Zodiac appears at the Chronicle, and it's discussed on how to handle his demands. There's a meeting in the office, and Downey is tasked with finding information about crime in Vallejo. He says, and I quote, "I cover crime in Vallejo." And he gives a moment, looks around, and says, "Well, I guess I cover crime in Vallejo." Listen to that line. Those lines he gives in the film. Well done. Everyone treats Graysmith like shit, I put. And I also put why. Why do they treat him like shit? Might as well talk about that right now. We touched on it a little bit a few moments ago. So let's get into that now. Fincher wanted Graysmith to be an outsider. And it's plain as day through the whole film that he is. So that's why. He's treated like shit by everyone in the office. He actually gets called a retard. And that didn't happen in real life. And I find it interesting that Fincher would do that. He would put that in there. The retard comment. I always found it very odd. One of the most interesting things about the film to me was that Graysmith was called a retard. And when I watched the movie, and I've seen it probably around 10 times, around there, every time I've seen it, why is it that I'm so drawn to figure out why everyone didn't like him in the office, and calling him a retard, and that he's stupid, and just nobody likes him. Like at lunchtime, he's off in the cafeteria eating alone, right? Drawing his little cartoons and stuff. An outcast. Even in the meetings, they just don't want him around. All they want him to do is draw his little cartoons for the paper, and that's it. Don't talk to anybody. Don't even breathe in my direction. And they really wanted, this is Fincher, really wanted Graysmith to be small in character. The staff at the Chronicle go to the bar. I note that because it seems to me back in the day, like the 60s and 70s, this was a normal thing. Either during work hours or after work, the guys, they went to the bar. They drank, they smoked, and they let the day go. I'm a shower guy at night. I shower at night. Why? Because I like to wash the day off of me. Does that make sense? Instead of, like, I wash up in the morning. I don't take a shower in the morning. I freshen up in the morning. But at night, I can't see myself slipping into bed with the day on me. So I just look in this way. Back in the day, guys, and some women too, they unloaded all of their daily frustrations and work stuff, personal stuff. They went to the bar and drank, smoked, and bullshitted and laughed their day away. It just seems like that was sort of the normal thing to do back then. Am I right? Am I wrong on this? It seems portrayed to me. This was a normal thing. You smoked everywhere back then. Drinking was just so normal during working hours because you had meetings and dinners, lunches. You'd have a martini or two. You can't do that now. Heaven forbid you come back to the office reeking of scotch. They would be like, what did you do? What, are you okay? It just was a different time back then. We were just so much more relaxed. We're so uptight now. Our shoulders are up over our ears now. I'm like that too. I know I'm getting off topic. I do this on my show. Fuck it. I'm like that driving home from work. I start off in my car every day. I go, today, I'm not going to get pissed driving home. I'm just going to accept the fact there are piece of shit asshole drivers every day. They're going to cut me off. They're going to go 95 down the highway, risking everybody's life so they could be home 3 minutes before me. But that's beside the fact. But I'm getting upset just thinking about it. But I put myself in a mindset every day. That's just life. What difference is it going to make if I get pissed or not? Nothing. Me getting pissed just means I get pissed. I break my rules every day. Within 5 minutes, I'm swearing. It's over. I'm so stressed. My shoulders are above my ears driving. I'm like, so maybe I do have a lot of anger issues. You think? On the road. But you know what I'm saying. It just seems like we're just so... What's the rush? Why are we so rushed? I'm rushed. I'm guilty of this. I gotta be home as soon as possible. Why? Things will get done. You'll get there. You'll get there eventually, folks. Like, it might be 5 minutes faster than me. Okay, I'm gonna get home 5 minutes later than you. What are those 5 minutes really? Okay? Those are 5 extra minutes of brushing your teeth, wiping your ass, walking the dog, doing the dishes. It'll get done. Paying the bills. Oh, life, right? I know. And life is the actor's room. That's the show. It's acting talk. It's film talk, director talk, and it's life talk. That's what it is. Shows I listen to, this one show I listened to just yesterday. I'm looking for new things to listen to. It was true crime related, right? And although the information, details, and everything were spot on, facts and whatnot, and in the show I was listening to, within 5 minutes, I wanted to punch myself in the face. And I'm going to tell you why. The guy, the host of the show, was so monotone and fucking boring. He could have been giving out the secrets of life. I wouldn't have given a rat's fucking ass. And this guy has thousands of subscribers. Thousands. People really want to listen to somebody that talks like this. The opening shows the Zodiac's second attack, not the first. The first attack was on December 20th of 1968. The second attack was on Michael Rougeau and Darlene Ferrin of July 4th, 1969. Michael survived. ... Darlene did not. Michael is still alive and recalls most of that evening. The couple was followed before parking. I'm not fucking kidding. That's what this guy did. After 5 minutes, I'm like, is this a joke? People actually listen to this guy. And his episode was over an hour. So you get to listen to that for an hour. Great credit sequence. The office of the San Francisco Chronicle. Jake as Graysmith is noticeably awkward. Seems he didn't fit in. Acting note. ... Jake does a double take at his desk before he leaves it. I guess I could do that, folks. You know what? For the rest of the show, I'm going to do that. Maybe my members will go up because I guess that's what people want to hear. I don't have many listeners on my show. because I don't advertise. Before we move on, because I just want to say this. I think it's kind of cool and great that my show really isn't that popular, because other shows I listen to that are popular, every 5 fucking minutes, I have to hear an ad. And it's tiresome. On my show, you have no ads. It's just straight show. You don't have to worry about pressing the skip button. Hopefully on YouTube, I don't listen to my show on YouTube. Do I have an ad every 5 minutes on YouTube? You got to wait 5 seconds to skip? I'm curious. I don't think so. Because my show's not popular enough. There's no ads in my show. You just get the show. You don't have to worry about every 5 minutes. That's where we're at, folks. And that's just reality. Selling out, all that stuff. And I'm not going to lie, if my show was popular, I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing. In between talking about the wonderful performances of Downey and Gyllenhaal, we got to talk about dick pills. And how these dick pills will make you hard for 5 straight fucking hours. How wonderful that is. And how you should rush to your nearest phone. Oh, we don't have to do that anymore, folks. We don't have to run to that rotary phone. We just have to look over and see our phone, pick it up, and dial in this number or go to the website to order your dick pills. Wow, we went way off track. I ranted. It happened. And you're going, what the f? There are probably 3 people that tried my show for the first time, wanting to learn more about the film Zodiac, and jumped off the show about 5 minutes ago, right in the middle of my rant. It's going to be over. I'm going to stop, take a moment, get back on track, and talk more about the movie Zodiac, directed by David Fincher in 2007, starring Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and other wonderful actors that we're going to talk about very soon. Must note, once again, the relationship between Graysmith and Avery is a focal point and interesting, and the way Downey stares at Gyllenhaal, trying to figure him out. Look at that. It's just movie gold. Watching an actor just look at another actor and trying to figure him out. Simple. So when you think about, as an actor, being in school, and they tell you you have to have purpose. There has to be something behind your lines and why you're saying them. It makes perfect sense, right? But it's not an easy task to have that truthful sort of purposeful dialogue, meaning behind what you're saying. I mean, we do that every day, naturally, because we're living the moment of our lives. But when you pick up a script with lines on it that you have no idea what these mean, they're just words on paper. But when you dive deeper into a character and the film, and you're in touch with the director, and the relationship between you and your co-stars blossoms when you're on set, going over lines, or just being around each other. You get comfortable. I mean, hell, Gyllenhaal and Downey, I'm sure they had a few lunches together, getting to know each other, having a few laughs. You get that sense of a working relationship. And that's exactly what it is between actors that really care about a project, I think. You have to know who you're working with. You can't ignore that. So in this, you could tell that Downey and Gyllenhaal were, I don't want to say close, but they respected one another. So much so you get this wonderful relationship in Zodiac. And right in the very end of one of the scenes between Downey and Gyllenhaal, one of the bosses grabs the attention of Downey, his character Avery, and he now has a job to do, a demand given to him. And the way Downey says, very well. Those 2 little words, very well. And he just walks away. Just, maybe the next time you watch the movie, just notice that. Just the way he says it, very well. He's so wonderful. And I don't know how why I haven't really dived into Downey. I don't know. Why haven't I done Hoffman yet? Dustin Hoffman. I don't know. Why haven't I done Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, Jessica Lange? So many wonderful actresses, too, I haven't done yet. The recent passing of Diane Keaton, she went to the Neighborhood Playhouse. I wasn't the biggest fan of Keaton. She's okay. Quirky. I always thought she was kind of flaky, but she was different. There was one thing that I could say about Diane Keaton. She was different, and I like that about actors. Quirky, yes. Flaky, probably. But different. And 89, she was. The movie stars of yesteryear are passing on, and it's a sad time. You know, all these wonderful actors that we grew up watching. All those Gen Xers and so on. Boomers even listening. I might have boomers listening too. That's great. And all these big movie stars that were in their prime and they're now passing. Ouch. The time of the movie star is slipping away. There aren't that many anymore. Talking these legends. I'm holding on to them, that memory too. Robert Redford's passing was just, I think about him every day. I'm not kidding. We just watched Barefoot in the Park again. I watched it with my wife and she loved it. Even my daughter watched it with us. Robert Redford. We watched Downhill Racer again. I want to watch Sundance again pretty soon. And it wasn't that long ago I watched Jeremiah Johnson. It's amazing to me when I really think about it, how often I watched Robert Redford films. You just accepted how fucking great he was. Getting back to Zodiac. The next attack in the film is Brian Hartwell and Cecilia Shepard. The attack was done on September 27th of 1969, Lake Berryessa. The most interesting of all the attacks. Zodiac wears a costume during this attack. Hood and all. Creepy shit. And he has the Zodiac symbol on his chest. You can tell he drew the symbol on his chest. And Brian, who survived the attack, remembers the moments extremely well. Zodiac ends up writing shit. Not like shit, but he wrote on Brian's car. And what he wrote were the dates of the killings the Zodiac did and his victims. And like I said, Brian survives, but Cecilia passes. He doesn't finish off the guys. Brian gives the best description of Zodiac ever. And it's creepy as hell. Fincher did all he could to recreate the settings in the scene. He actually had trees brought in and planted, big trees. He had big holes dug out of the ground to put the trees because it just didn't look like it did in the 60s and 70s. Brian Hartwell's retelling of the story in interviews and how they were tied up. Brian asking Zodiac questions to keep the conversation going. All that stuff really happened. And when he asked about the gun being loaded, once again, this dialogue that was in the movie actually happened. And the way Brian, even today, talks about how he got stabbed in the back. Think about that. This guy, Brian Hartwell, still alive today, remembers how Zodiac had him tied up, his hands behind his back, laying on the ground near a lake with his friend. And he's stabbing him in the back like 12 times. He remembers that just getting stabbed. God, you can imagine it, right? Just a little. Like how it would feel being stabbed in the back. Why am I going there? That's fucked up. I did. I went there for a second. And I want to note that Brian was an advisor on the film. And he says that the first time he watched that scene, imagine, so eerily similar to his memories, and especially the way Fincher had the camera placed, would have been how Brian saw things for a few moments during that scene. Fincher. Fucking David Fincher was alive at that time in California when this shit was going on. Fincher remembers being a school kid at that time. And cops following the buses because the Zodiac will threaten kids on school buses. Fincher remembers this time. This was a very personal film for Fincher. He wanted this one to be special. The next attack is Paul Stine, murdered on October 11th of 1969. The attacks are getting closer together. Stine was a cab driver. Zodiac shot him in the cab. And he ends up taking a piece of Paul Stine's blood-stained shirt. There were kids that saw the attack from an apartment building, a window. There was false identification given to the police officers during the crime. The report was of a black man that did the shooting. Zodiac should have been caught that night. 2 police officers in their vehicle saw a white male fitting the description of the Zodiac walking away from the scene. I think they actually stopped to ask him a question. Like, did you see any suspicious characters around tonight? And the supposed Zodiac said, nope, haven't seen anything. May I go? Fuck. They didn't question him further because they were looking for a black guy. The wrong description given by the police officer back at the office, back at the precinct, was given the wrong information or was it translated in the wrong way. It should have ended that night. The night Paul Stine was murdered, the cab driver. Should have been over. He just got away. We meet 2 more essential characters in the next scene. We meet Inspector Toshki, played by Mark Ruffalo. Just an amazing performance by Ruffalo. High praise. We also see Anthony Edwards. Impressed with him too, by the way. He's a fine actor. Screenwriter puts in cute scene setting up the relationship right before they go to the crime scene, where they're talking about food. Just a blasé conversation about food. And I guess it's true that Toshki loved to eat animal cookies. That wasn't made up for the film. It was a nice touch to have that in there. It's distinctive. It's weird. What adult male seeks out animal cookies to eat? Not many, folks. Not many. And I gotta say, I love animal cookies. I love them. I haven't had an animal cookie in probably 30 years, but the last time I had one, I enjoyed them very much. Is it they're hard to find? Can I go to my local store right now and go get animal cookies? I don't think so. Why? Because I haven't seen animal cookies in the grocery store in a long time. Have they been taken off the shelves? Do you have animal cookies somewhere in your house right now? And if you do, please notify the actors room. I also put, I'm drawn to watching Ruffalo as an actor. He demands attention. I watch him among the crowd, even when he has no dialogue. Interesting, though. Do you find that to be the case with some actors? How, for me, Ruffalo could be among 8 actors on the screen. And I'm watching him. What is that? It's a gift that you can't teach. You just have it. I'm drawn to certain actors on the screen. And for me, Ruffalo demands attention. And I find that interesting. But the scene that you get to meet Ruffalo and Edwards, That was done on a soundstage, a set. The original intersection in real life, when it happened, wasn't good enough in the mind of Fincher. So he replicated it as best he could on a stage. The bloodstained shirt of the murdered Paul Stine is sent to the Chronicle. Downey tells Jake to stop looming around him. Great scene. Great scene. Downey and Gyllenhaal, the relationship, I'm going to say it again, it's wonderful. And you get a moment. Gyllenhaal is hanging around Downey's desk, just being annoying. And Downey says, "You're doing it again." The L word. And Gyllenhaal thinks, what do you, looming. I'm sorry. Jake Gyllenhaal's character of Graysmith slowly becomes obsessed with Zodiac. Jake does a nice job with portraying that from the very beginning. His slow, sort of obsessive interest. The interest level is there from the very start. He hangs around Downey's Avery for information and conversation, going through his garbage, hanging around, being annoying. But the chemistry is there. Downey's character of Avery is so frustrated with Graysmith at one point in the film. He says this, quote, "Jesus heralded Christ on rubber crutches," end quote. What the hell does that mean? Jesus heralded Christ on rubber crutches. I looked it up. And it was said in Natural Born Killers before that by Tommy Lee Jones's character. And I find it interesting that Robert Downey was in Natural Born Killers. So he must have gotten it from that film. We are also introduced to a few new characters in the film, characters that work at other police stations. One of them, Elias Koteas. You may know him from films like Some Kind of Wonderful, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thin Red Line, movies like that. And also Donal Logue, who's in Blade, The Patriot, Jerry Maguire, and a sitcom that he did back in the day called Grounded for Life. He's a good actor and a good dude. I've been in contact with him in the past. Donal Logue, good man. Good actor as well. Character actor. You see him around. Like, you just know that guy. You go, oh my God, I don't know his name, but I know that actor. The next interesting thing that happens in the film is when Zodiac wants to call into the talk show, and we're introduced to Brian Cox's character. Brian Cox. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actor. And I love when he says he's in the car with the cops, with Ruffalo and Edwards. He's in the back seat. He's laying on the ground because he's paranoid about being shot by Zodiac. He says, "Good Lord, do you ever clean this car?" Well, he says it. And I really hate doing the little quote things, but when an actor nails a line, I like to note it. Fincher does an amazing job with this aspect of the talk show portion. I was going to say portion and part at the same time. Portion. We're going to use that word. This portion of the film where they're doing the talk show was well done by Fincher. The original telecast and how it looked into how it translated to the film, spot on, well done. And I think the caller, of course, wasn't Zodiac. And I think it was confirmed that the caller wasn't Zodiac. It was a mental patient at a hospital nearby. One of the best scenes in the movie is when Avery and Graysmith go to the bar and have the blue drink called Aqua Velva, a drink made up by David Fincher. Didn't know that. And what's in this Aqua Velva? Vodka? Gin? Something called Blue Caruccio? Never heard of it. And also a lemon lime soda. I'd like to try it. I like vodka. Gin, I could take or leave. I like a good martini, a gin martini. I do. I prefer a gin martini to a vodka martini, actually. But if I were to pick one over the other with other mixed drinks, I have to go with vodka. Gin has that really different kind of taste, like tequila. You either love it or hate it. I'm not partial to tequila either. But it's a really great scene between Gyllenhaal and Downey. Once again, there are a handful of great scenes / moments in this film that make it so great. And it's between these two actors. In the bar, they're just sitting around having a conversation, having a few drinks. At one point, Downey takes out some straws, and he's making this contraption where it's standing up, and Downey asked Fincher if he could do this in the scene, and Fincher's like, that'd be great. Do it, yes. But in the editing process of that scene, in the complication of the straws coming together and staying a certain way and making it look right, was sort of really difficult for Fincher to make happen. And I find that interesting. The loopholes and sort of the mental gymnastics or the camera gymnastics you have to do to make a scene like that work, where you're taking an actor's sort of natural playfulness in a scene where they want to do something cool by making straws stand up. And the director says, okay, let's do that. But it's complicated. When you're splicing film and you're in different angles, and it's amazing to me, things that I didn't know about with directors and putting a movie together and how difficult it is. Because you're shooting them from the back, and then you're shooting them from the side. You're doing close-ups, and you're doing a long shot. And then you got to do it from another angle. It sounds mindless and mind-blowing at the same time. And then take after take, and keeping up the energy and the flow. That's why a scene like that probably is magical. Because all you're doing is you're sitting around having a few drinks. Although Downey can't. He's an addict. I wonder how that goes. Because he looks in this film like he's drunk a lot. So he's just going method, remembering back in the day when he was in a lot of trouble. And he was, folks. When I was at the Playhouse in the late 90s, I remember being in that, like the common room at the Playhouse, where people go to just lay down on the couches and have a snack and have a soda and whatnot. Or a beer, whatever. Whatever they were doing at that time. And I remember the TV being on. And Downey just looking the way he looked. He was being sentenced at that time, I think. And I remember thinking to myself, by God, all that talent and what are you doing, man? What a shame. He had turned it around. Thank God he did. He's one of the best actors we have out there. One of the very best. And I wonder, just going method, remembering what it was like being drunk back in 1996, because I'm sure that was the last time you were drunk, sir. He can't do it, folks. If he had a sip of wine, we wouldn't see Downey for 3 years. He'd be on a bender. He'd be in some other country, some other planet, probably. Because he's a strange dude. You have to admit it. Watch Downey trying to be normal. He can't. He can't do it. He's not a normal dude, and that's fine. That's great. That's what makes him such a wonderful artist. He's so quirky and weird. He's a weird dude. So strange. Okay, have to note that the next attack, so to speak, is the mom and baby incident. And Ione Skye plays the mom. God, she's beautiful. And the supposed Zodiac pulls her over like a cop. I know. It took a second for me to register that because I just can't imagine it. You're driving along at night, a woman nonetheless, with a baby right next to you. And some guy comes rolling up. Hey, you gotta pull over, your tire's loose. What? That's fucked up. Is that how trustworthy we were back then? In the late 60s in America? Where you're driving around with a baby and some guy pulls up and says, pull over, your tire's loose. And you actually pull over? Are you fucking nuts? This lady did. And the supposed Zodiac, or whoever this guy was, comes up and says, your tire's loose. I can tighten it for you. And she says, oh, that'd be great. Thank you. And he goes back there and he's fucking with the tire. Goes, okay, you should be all set. Have a great night. All right, bye. And she's driving along. And all of a sudden her tire falls off. You're going to be thinking, what the fuck? And of course, he comes sliding on back. Oh, that tire was more fucked up than I thought it was. I'll give you a lift. And the creepiest part in that circumstance that David Fincher encapsulates is when the attacker looks over at the mom and says, before I kill you, I'm going to throw your baby out the window. Ladies and gentlemen, that is probably one of the scariest moments in film history for me. Simple, yes. And a lot of people going, that's really not that scary. For me, it is. And it might be because I am just the greatest advocate for babies. If you know anything about me, babies, children, kids, period, I hold in the highest regard in almost every way. And maybe just the thought of that, some motherfucker actually even thinking that, before I kill you, I'm going to throw your baby out the window like it's garbage. Just, it sends chills down my spine. But Fincher, he does it. Like, he made that moment chilling and silent. The way he did it, can't describe it. You just did it, David Fincher, you did it. It was wonderful. And the scariest moment in the film for me. And overall, I think, and also Fincher agrees with me, that wasn't Zodiac, that story. The mom, who did get away, she got away, she got out of the car somehow. She said that he had her for 2 hours. Holy shit. And she got out of the car somehow, and she got away, and when she went to the police department, she identified the man on the wall as Zodiac. She goes, that's him. That's who got me tonight. The Zodiac on the wall. But it doesn't make sense, the whole thing. It just doesn't. Was she just caught up and scared and whatever? But I don't think it was Zodiac. That attack, not. So why did Fincher have that in there? I think he really liked that whole creepiness of the scene, that he had to put it in there. Because it's such a fascinating story in the whole Zodiac thing. Because he took credit for it. Zodiac in the future will go ahead and take credit for that. There's a Halloween card sent to the Chronicle, but more specifically sent to Avery, which is Downey's character. And in the film, in the card or envelope, package, whatever, there's a piece of the clothing of Paul Stein, the blood-stained shirt. That's false. That did not happen in real life. And that's how I want to really express right now, before we go any further. And this is a long episode. That's just the way it is. The difference between the real stories and film is, and then in between that, you have the adaptation of the book written by Graysmith. And like how things get lost in translation of art and opinion. Because there are a lot of people out there who are big Zodiac researchers, just Zodiac nuts, that say Graysmith's book, a lot of it is bullshit. There are things that he actually made up. Can't trust these publications and films. They are portrayals, they're opinions, translation, like I said. You can't trust them. Their art, their words, their stories. Done for publicity, money, and or art. And what Fincher and Graysmith did, okay, was done for entertainment purposes, especially Fincher. A passion project, yes, for Fincher. passion project for Graysmith, absolutely. But it is art. And they could do whatever the hell they want with that book and with that film. Now, mind you, Fincher did place in advisors that actually were alive during this time. Key people, like victims, that were taken in and talked with, discussed with these events. But you can't take what this film tells you and go, that's how it happened. No, don't do that. This is a movie. It's film. It's art. It's entertainment. All right, so Graysmith goes on a date. So we get that aspect of Graysmith, how he has concern for Avery, the relationship that doesn't exist in reality, by the way, but does in this film. Avery investigates on his own at one point in the story and in real life. That's true. He doesn't go to the police first. He tries to go rogue. He's losing it a bit because he was directly threatened by Zodiac. And this produces a wonderful scene and a wonderful moment between Ruffalo and Downey when Downey hangs around and confronts Ruffalo about what are you doing to catch this fucking guy? And then you have the detective inspector, Toshki, played by Ruffalo, being frustrated with Downey because he's going rogue. And why didn't you come to me? We're the police. We should have this information. And Toshki / Ruffalo is so frustrated with Avery that he knocks the notebook out of his hand. And it's a wonderful moment where they do that. And the notebook falls to the ground. And Downey has to go get it. And it's a very vulnerable moment for Downey. You know? And he plays it so well. And now we get to the greatest, best suspect in the Zodiac case. And his name is Arthur Lee Allen. The best lead for the inspectors, detectives, and the police. They interview him at his work. The actor that plays Lee, John Carroll Lynch, masterful in this scene. So smug, slimy, cocky, mysterious. Lynch, the actor, you know him from Fargo in the Drew Carey Show. Notice Ruffalo's reactions to Lynch, to Lee. He just looks at him, studies him in a very concerned but interesting look. And once again, I'm drawn to Ruffalo. He's so involved in the scene. And Ruffalo, personally, will go on to say later on how interesting making this film was. He goes, that was an interesting one. Because Ruffalo does a lot of work. That guy works all the time. If he's not doing a film, he's doing something on stage, Ruffalo. And when he's not doing something on stage, he's doing improv probably, writing. Oh, he is constant. And if he's not doing that, he's doing political stuff. And the guy, he's just like McConaughey. And that's another guy I've had enough of. And I love McConaughey as an actor. Incredible. But, I mean, enough already, McConaughey. Jesus H. Christ. Do you like yourself a little bit? You know, these actors being all political. I just don't give a shit. What Mark Ruffalo believes, I don't care. You know, McConaughey writing books and giving seminars. It's like, I don't know. Is that bad on me? Is that bad on me? If I need advice about anything, I'm going to go to my wife. I'm going to go to my kids. I'm going to go to my parents, my brother. I'm not looking to McConaughey, Ruffalo, and oh, gee, I wonder what Ruffalo thinks about this subject. I got to do some research on this. Get the hell out of here. But I got all off track, but I do that on my show. And the voice is starting to go too, folks. I know. That's... The show has progressed into you get insight if you want it, and then you get information you may have known about about an actor, about a show, and then you just get ramblings. Something that sparks something else in me, and you get other stuff. You're probably thinking, is he on something? No, I'm not on anything. I'm on nasal spray. That's it. Well, they're probably thinking, what's in that nasal spray, Jeff? Allergy medicine. The nose spray works, folks. I have allergies, and when I'm in need, I go to that nasal spray, and it is awesome. It gets up there and just like a breath of fresh air. Let's talk about, we're getting off of nose spray. We're going to talk about Arthur Lee Allen and how wonderful of a suspect he is. He's the best suspect ever. I've gone on to all these sites and seen all the other suspects. They don't come close. And there are a lot of people that are just very passionate about their suspect. Oh my God, how can you not believe it's this guy? Arthur Lee Allen checks a lot of boxes, folks. You do research on Allen, and you go check, 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 check. They never had any DNA evidence. And have you seen the writing samples between Zodiac and Allen? They're very similar. I see the experts said there's no match. I say, I don't understand this science. I don't understand it. Just because they aren't exactly the same, you can't fathom that maybe Zodiac switched up his handwriting a little bit? And from what I understand, Allen could write with both hands. He was a lefty and a righty, folks. He probably messed with it. Allen's the best suspect. I don't care what anybody says. Just because you don't have DNA evidence. Fuck that. It was probably lost anyway. Or do they even have enough? Honestly? I don't know. And will Zodiac ever be identified? Who knows? And if it's not Allen, right, then will it ever happen where the Golden State Killer, they got him, and he was in his 70s? That was an interesting one. They eventually got him. The original Night Stalker in California. You could just hope and pray they find Zodiac one day. How awesome would that be? But ultimately, the head investigator, Detective Toschi, he thinks Allen's the killer, the guy. That's it. Graysmith, who is also very close to the action, also believes with all his freaking heart and soul that it's Allen. And then you have to think to yourself, Toschi was caught doing some unethical things surrounding the case to get his guy, doing all he could to bring Allen to justice. There are cops, people, detectives, writers, cartoonists that so passionately believe in their suspect that they're willing to do anything to get them caught. It's like when you know you have a 99% belief that someone did something, and you don't have that 1%, but you know they did it. You would almost do anything to get them caught. Like, what's it gonna take to finally bring this motherfucker down? Like, what do I have to do? And that might be why Graysmith fudged a few things. Or Toschi did the same. Because they knew Lee did it. They just couldn't get that one thing, that would clinch it and go, got him. They never got it. But if you ever do research on this story and you look up Arthur Lee Allen, you go, boy. And there's one of the sketches of the Zodiac, and that's why I think he wasn't the only one. I think he had help. There were a couple of others. There's a couple of different sketches of Zodiac. Lee fits one of them to a T. Fascinating stuff. In the film, Avery becomes very paranoid, turns to drugs and alcohol. Now, the real Avery did take drugs and drink alcohol, but not to the extent that you see it in the film. Fincher wanted it this way to make it more interesting, so that's what you get from Avery. He loses control. I have to note, one of the best scenes in the movie, if not the best scene in the movie in my opinion, is when Graysmith, played by Gyllenhaal, goes to visit Avery, played by Downey, in his boathouse on the lake. Downey is drunk and high in method. And Gyllenhaal goes to visit him about writing a book and how all the research that Avery did will help him in writing this book. And that scene, I've watched many times. And I will watch that scene 20 times. There's Atari playing in the background. And you hear, I think it's Pong. You hear the beep, 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 beep. That's going in the background. Downey's in his robe. He sits down showing leg and slipper. And then you have Gyllenhaal goes, I'm here, how you doing? I'm thinking of writing a book. And the best line in the movie, Downey's just sitting there, he goes, someone should write a fucking book. And he's like, about what? It's the best line in the movie, folks. Yeah, someone should write a book. About what? And it's just playful, relaxed, sort of fun scene. And Gyllenhaal's character just wants to engage in conversation about Zodiac again. But Downey is done. He's done with Zodiac. He just wants to sit in his boathouse, play Atari, and drink all day long. And that's what you get. He pretty much tells them to fuck off, and Graysmith does. But you get that last scene between a wonderful relationship. I can't say it enough. Can't. And you can't deny the scenes between Gyllenhaal and Downey. By God, they make the film. And as I end it, wrap up the film portion, the ending, when Graysmith, he just wants to see Alan. He finds out he works at a hardware store. And Graysmith goes into the store, sees Alan, doesn't say anything to him, but he just gets a look at him. Thinking, I'm looking at Zodiac. And then you have Lynch, Lynch, the actor, playing Zodiac, Arthur Lee Allen. And that look that he gives Graysmith, it's just, so good. So good. Thank you, David Fincher. Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal, Anthony Edwards, folks. Anthony fucking Edwards. ER. Revenge of the Nerds. Top Gun, right? Goose. Does he ever disappoint, though? I mean, he's kind of a goofy guy. He is. Come on, folks. He is. Is it because of Revenge of the Nerds? It might be. But he's good. I mean, props to all the characters. Well done by Fincher, the director. He got a great performance out of everybody. Well done. And a few notes as we slip away. Fincher wanted Brad Pitt for the Toschi role. Couldn't get him. Inspector Toschi influenced McQueen's bullet in Eastwood's Dirty Harry. Music was done by David Shire. Fincher based the feel on this film on All the President's Men. Another wonderful film, a Robert Redford film. Dustin Hoffman, too. Whew. Thank you for listening to The Actors Room. Episode 150. I wanted to do this show 2 weeks ago. I just didn't feel it. I got to be in the right mood now. I would do this show weekly. Then it became bi-weekly. And then I took a year off practically. I do them when I'm inspired to do them. I just can't do a show every week. Just to do a show. I can't do it anymore. Okay? I do these shows when I feel the need to do them. And I'm inspired to do them. In this time of year, watching horror movies, I watched Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Spencer Tracy one, done in 1941. Wow, that was good. And the content, holy shit, for 1941, whoa, blew me away. Wow. And wow. I also watched for the very first time a film done in 1981 called Possession with Sam Neill. It was a Polish director. Oh my God, that movie blew my mind. Emotion everywhere, chaos. It's about divorce. The Polish director was going through some nasty divorce during this time in his life, and holy shit, did it come through in Possession 1981. Woo! And I also watched Rosemary's Baby, and I might do an episode on that next week if I have the time. Roman Polanski, you son of a bitch. You might be one hell of a son of a bitch. You're one hell of a director, sir. You can't, and another Polish director, you can't take anything away from that guy in terms of art. Unbelievable. Rosemary's Baby. That's a film. And as we slip away, I just want to say thank you. I hope all is well. Put in a scary movie tonight. If not, watch it during the day. When it's not dark and you're freaked out. I got to do it during the day now, folks. I'm getting old and crotchety. Crotchety or crotchety, I'm one of those two things. And yeah, I'll get a little creeped out. I'll admit. I hope you enjoyed this show. And my sidetracking, I apologize if it gets away from the show itself. That's my show. Take it or leave it. That's me. Getting a little something more out of me, a person. I'm a person. And my thoughts will go from here to there sometimes. That's just the way I am. So that's just a part of the show. I hope you enjoy that too. So for now, always make art a part of your life. That diversion you need just to get away for a few hours or even just an hour watching your favorite show, getting an episode in every day. I hope you enjoy that and get something out of it. Do research on a show or a movie, right? You can go on to Reddit. You can look up stuff on imdb.com. Go to Wikipedia just to get a little information maybe you didn't know about. It's so interesting to dive into film, TV shows. And then you start thinking about true crime or relationship and other aspects of life. It's a wonderful tool, the internet. It really is. And I'm thankful for it. Technology is a wonderful thing. There's no doubt about it. You just got to be careful with it. Don't let it run your life where you're constantly looking at your phone. I hope that's not you. Pick up a book. I've been picking up a book. Got away from it recently, but I've been reading about presidents and stuff. I like reading about real people. I do. Every now and then I'll read a thriller novel, but not many. I like reading about history. It's fascinating. So I hope you do that too. So, long episode, a diversion from your life, right? And it's helpful to keep you sane. I hope I kept you just a little bit sane. And if I got you a little insane, I'm sorry. So until the next time, may God bless you and have a good one.